Okay, good morning. I call the July 9th, 2024 meeting of the DuPage County Board to order. A physical quorum of members is physically present. I will entertain a motion to permit to, not physically
Second.
here. Okay. All right, all in favor? Okay, opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I invite everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Member Childress, will you please lead us? Okay. I now invite Pastor Paul Arthurs of Wheaton Christian Center in Wheaton to lead us in the invocation.
Let us go before the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we take this opportunity to say thank you for your grace, your goodness, your loving kindness, which your word says is better than life. Lord, may our lips praise you and may we bless you. May we honor you. I pray right now that you would be exalted. For as you said in your word, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach. I pray, Lord, that as leaders, we would humble ourselves, recognizing that unless you build the house, the labor labors in vain. I pray right now, Lord God, Lord, that even as we are seeing, even this past weekend, the devastation, the loss of life, the senseless violence, may we not look across in our comfort zone and say, it's not our problem. But Lord, may it cause us to weep as a nation, as a people. Lord, being born and raised here in Wheaton, I recognize, Lord, that I have been blessed and privileged. Lord, the rich history that we have in this county of faith, where legendary men and women of the gospel have gone out into the world and helped to build lives and build homes and build communities. Thank you, Lord, that we are a part of this rich history, and we are now in this chapter when we need you more than ever. We know, Lord, in your word, that if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? So we pray for the restoration, Lord God, that those from among us, those even in leadership who are called by your name, those who have recognized and humbled themselves and recognized that you are Lord, would commit in this sacred duty to build the old waste places, to restore the foundation of many generations, so that we can rejoice together in unity as a community, your goodness and your faithfulness, that our children would enjoy the blessing of the Lord. So my prayer today, Lord, is that you would bless and keep us. You would cause your face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. That you would lift up your countenance upon us so that the love of Christ would be seen all over us. And you would give us, as your people, peace, glorious peace. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you.
Okay, Mr. Deputy Clerk, please take the roll.
Cahill.
Here.
Chaplin.
Here.
Childress. Covert. Dessart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Here.
Galassi. Guston. Garcia.
Here.
Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You
Here.
and Zay.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, on the matter of public comment, according to our county board rules, members of the public shall be afforded time to address the board. Individual remarks shall not exceed 3 minutes in time, and our first speaker is
Zay Miracle. Michael.
Your
Sir?
microphone isn't on, sir?
Test 1, 2.
My name's Zay Miracle. I live on Knollwood Drive. Recently, a business went in and it opened. Is gambling, slots, video poker. We feel that that's not a good fit for the area and will bring some negative results as a result. In the handout that I gave you lists some of the schools that are in that area that might be affected. The Lacey's Place, it was okay. Sorry. Basically, people have concerns about causing their homes to decrease in value. It'll definitely increase the traffic on Gary and on Knollwood and several others. Mixing schools, booze, and gambling, we don't feel is a good fit, and we have distributed a petition among the neighbors, and they agree that that Lacey's Place should not be open. Currently, it is open now, so we're asking the board to shut down that gambling business. I think that's about it.
Karen Rugg.
Years, and I learn more by listening to you than I ever have gotten anywhere by explaining my own story. And I just want to start out by saying, Chairman Conroy was touched by your emotion. The lady that retired, you were so grateful to her. She was kind to you. She listened to you. She supported you. And you couldn't help but share all that emotion over YouTube. I think you were even wiping a tear from your eye. However, when people come to see you and plead their heart out for help, you don't show that kindness. That woman had remarkable character, that she was willing to help every single one of you. You laughed at me. Oh, you were never in charge of Itasca. Ha 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 ha. It's on camera. My husband recorded it. You're mean to people. Mean girls. For 10 years, I've been trying to get help. I went from 65 last month, I turned 75. I'm getting old. My husband's getting old. 10 years is a long time to wait. I gave you this picture. It's from the village of Itasca. And this was printed in June 23. And this man, I thought he's a new man, Brendan Daly's the big guy on the right. He's a civil engineer. He knows the truth. If he doesn't play the game, he knows what's going on.
Mrs. Rugg, we can't hear you without the microphone.
This is cars. And you sit here and do nothing, talk about theater arts buildings? You don't need another theater arts buildings. I was at an arts seminar and people said, we got 10 million theater arts places to go. I was just at the Morton Arboretum listening to a band, Santana. You can go anywhere for a concert. You don't need any money spent on frivolous things. You need help for people like this and me and my husband and the people on George Street in Itasca. It's not incorporated, it's not in the lunar moon, it's in DuPage County.
Mrs. Rugg, you're at 3 minutes.
If the board received public comment via our online portal per board policy, those comments were provided to members yesterday so they could be reviewed. Comments submitted electronically will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Okay, on to, let's see. Today we have no proclamations or presentations on our agenda. However, I will ask the board to stay for an executive session after we complete our agenda items today. I'd like to thank everyone who contributed to the success of the 20th annual DuPage Care Center golf outing this year. We had rainy skies, but very sunny dispositions on June 20th as we raised nearly $26,000. The event included contests and raffles featuring several beautiful raffle baskets. Thank you to the many donors and sponsors that made this event such a success, and a special thank you to Human Services Chair Greg Schwarzy and Vice Chair Paula Deacon Garcia for attending the event. All proceeds benefit the DuPage Care Center Foundation, which will support quality of life programs and services for the residents. The 21st annual golf outing is tentatively scheduled for June 27, 2025, so mark your calendars now. Okay, I seek a motion to approve the consent agenda items. Okay. 24-1966 DuPage County Board regular meetings minutes Tuesday, June 25th, 2024. 24-1874, 6/21/2024 pay list. 24-1892, 6/25/2024 pay list. 6/27/2024 auto debit pay list. 24-1941, 6/28/2024 pay list. 24-1965, 7/2/2024 pay list. 24-1877, 6/26/2024, 7,000, 8,700 wire transfers. 24-1961, change orders to various contracts as specified in the attached packet. 24-1940, clerk's monthly report of receipts and disbursements, December 2023 through May 2024. All in favor? Okay, and now on to County Board and Member Childress.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move on CBR 3324, the appointment of Jim Harrod to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
It has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay.
Aye.
Cahill. And Chaplin.
Aye.
Okay, Member Childress.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on CBR 3424, the appointment of Michael Mayer to the Wheaton Mosquito Abatement District.
Leave is granted. Member Childress.
I'd like to move on CBR 3524, the appointment of John Ritondo to the Regional Transportation Authority.
Leave is granted. Member Childress.
I'd like to move on 3624, the appointment of John Fennell to the Yorkfield Fire Protection District.
Leave is granted. Member Childress.
And I'd like to move on 241948, the County Board Chair to attend the National Association of County Annual Conferences, expenses to include transportation, lodging, miscellaneous expenses, parking, mileage, etc., and per diem for the approximate total of $2,413.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Childress. And Finance, today will be Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0112-24, acceptance appropriation of the Illinois Home Weatherization Assistance Program state grant in the amount of $426,227.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Krajewski.
Aye.
LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay.
Aye.
Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. And Guston.
Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0113-24, acceptance appropriation of the ILD CFS Children's Advocacy Center grant in the amount of $346,127.
Leave is granted. Member Krajewski.
Okay, I move on FIR 0114-24, acceptance appropriation of the Victims of Crime Child Advocacy Center Service Program grant, $67,740.
Leave is granted. Member Krajewski.
Thank you. Move on FIR 0115-24, acceptance and appropriation of the Illinois Family Violence Coordinating Council grant for $49,000.
Leave is granted. Member Krajewski.
Thank you. I move on FIR 0116-24, acceptance appropriation of the Department of Human Services Supportive Housing Program grant for $154,180.
Leave is granted. Member Krajewski.
Move on FIR 0117-24, acceptance appropriation of the Tobacco Enforcement Program grant for $7,172.
Leave is granted. Member Krajewski.
Thank you. I move on FIR 0118-24, acceptance appropriation of the Donated Funds Initiative Program grant for $103,119.
Leave is granted. Member Krajewski.
And move on FIR 0119-24, acceptance appropriation additional funding for the Illinois Home Weatherization Program going from $1,074,096 to $1,982,773, which is an increase of $908,677.
Leave is granted. Member Krajewski.
Move on FIR 0120-24, amendment to the resolution FIR 0028-24 for the addition of certain specifications, scope, and work for trenchless rehabilitation and maintenance of pipeline infrastructure.
Leave is granted. Member Krajewski.
Move on FIR 0121-24, approval of employee compensation and job classification adjustments.
Leave is granted. Member Krajewski.
I move on FIR 0122-24, budget transfers.
Leave is granted. Member Krajewski.
Last, I move on FIR 0125-24, approval of the 2025 holiday schedule.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Krajewski. And Animal Services and Member Krajewski.
Just a quick date, construction's going along fine. As you drive in every Tuesday morning, you'll see the building getting closer and closer to finalization. Still looking around October. Thank you.
Okay. Development and Member Tornatori. Okay. Economic Development and Member LaPlante.
No report, Madam Chair.
Okay. Environmental and Member Rutledge.
I have a report today. Actually, several things I wanted to talk about today. First of all, the plastics presentation that we did on the nighttime meeting, I've asked that that be distributed to all the members here because I think it was pretty eye-opening for most. So if you could spread that in your areas, I'd appreciate that. On the good side of that, I would say that we've had several conversations recently with an entity called Recycle Buddy that's being state funded, and basically it's kind of a one-stop shop for how to get rid of stuff. So hoping to bring that recycle line up in our county. Also, we've been talking about the Hefty Orange Bag Program and basically what that's being implemented up in Lake County through Lakeshore Recycling, that you get orange bags from Hefty. You can put things like foam and shopping bags and bread bags, things like that that aren't curbside recycle into those orange bags, and they actually can send them to a company that makes biofuel out of it. So we're very interested in hearing about, you know, a better way to recycle some of those hard to recycle items. So the last county board meeting that we had, I think I was a little hyperbole on the issues facing us as far as climate change. But you're going to hear more of that from me because I think that it's time to wake people up to the dangers that we're facing there. Paula Garcia mentioned this morning about campus flooding. So that's coming to us, whether we want to stick our heads in the sand or not. So I will be pointing out those things in our world and communities that are a threat because of climate change. So get used to hearing that. And the last thing I want to say is finally, we have thrown the switch on the solar panels and they are starting to generate electricity for our campus. And I'm so pleased that we're looking at other areas that we could do that as well. So thank you to facilities for working through this and you know, holding the contractor's feet to the fire to make sure it flipped on. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I have one more thing to talk about. As far as plastics, so many products are a lot of water in a big plastic jug that we spend a lot of money shipping. So this is 32 loads of my laundry detergent, and this is my shampoo and conditioner. They say that it's 90 uses, and I'm loving this anyway, but look for products like this, that this comes packaged in paper and does not burden the landfill. So that's my tip for the day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the great work, Member Rutledge. And on to Human Services and Member Schwarzy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for mentioning the golf outing. Did you mention how much they actually raised this year?
26,000.
Okay, very good. Thank you, thank you. With regards to our DuPage Transformational Grant Partnership with the DuPage Foundation, as this board may recall, we earmarked $10 million worth of ARPA money back in 2022 for this. We've given out approximately $6 million so far. Vice Chair Garcia, myself, and our Director of Community Services, Mary Keating, have been attending the DuPage Foundation meetings for the award grants. And on August 13th, which is our first meeting in August, we will be handing out just under $1 million to the, I think it's round 3 of immediate grants. So please be prepared for that. And we'll be doing it at this meeting. And then in July, later this month, we will be awarding the longer term transformational grants, round 3, which is going to be really about the rest of that money, which will be about $3 million. So more information coming on there. On to our agenda items. I'll move on item HSP 2524, a recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Keurig Dr. Pepper, the American Bottle Company, for beverages and fountain drinks for the DuPage Care Center and cafes on the county campus for the period July 30th, 2024 through July 29th, 2025, for a contract amount not to exceed $30,600.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Schwarzy,
Yes.
Tornatori, you,
Aye.
Zay,
Aye.
Cahill, Chaplin,
Aye.
Childress, Covert, Desart, Eckhoff, Evans, Galasi, Garcia,
Aye.
Guston, Krajewski, LaPlante, Ozog, and Rutledge.
Okay, Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. I move on HSP 2624, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Alpha Baking Company to furnish and deliver assorted sliced breads, rolls, and sandwich buns for the DuPage Care Center and cafes on county campus for the period August 5th, 2024 through August 4th, 2025, for a contract total not to exceed $43,200.
Leave is granted. Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. I move on HSP 2724, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Medline Industries, Inc. to furnish and deliver various linens for the DuPage Care Center for the period August 10th, 2024 through August 9th, 2025, for a contract total not to exceed $72,000.
Leave is granted. Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. I move on 241928, HSP 0079A23, amendment to resolution HSP 007923, issued to Healthy Air Heating and Air, Inc. to provide architectural weatherization labor and materials for the weatherization program for the period October 30th, 2023 through November 30th, 2024, to increase encumbrance in the amount of $40,000 for a new contract total amount of $305,567, a 15.06% increase.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Schwarzy. Okay, Judicial and Public Safety and Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For my committee report, I want to first of all thank JPS Vice Chair Eckhoff for chairing the July 2nd JPS meeting while I was away. At the JPS meeting, we had a 2025 budget presentation by Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management Director Craig Diekman. And also, we received State's Attorney Bob Berlin's presentation regarding changes in the State's Attorney's Office procedure for pretrial detention requests for those charged with domestic violence. So if anybody didn't attend that meeting, I encourage you to watch it. It was very informative. And with that, I would like to move on JPS P-19-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Cloud Gavel LLC for the implementation and annual service of the warrant management system for the Sheriff's Office for the period of July 10th, 2024 through July 9th, 2029, for a contract total amount not to exceed $652,500.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Evans,
Aye.
Galasi, Garcia, Guston, Krajewski, LaPlante, Ozog, Rutledge, Schwarzy, Tornatori, you, Zay,
Aye.
Cahill, Chaplin,
Aye.
Childress, Covert, Desart, and Eckhoff.
Okay, Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next, I'd like to move on JPS P-20-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Lauren McLaughlin as a recovery coach coordinator to work with Serenity House and Path to Recovery coaches, probation, and other stakeholders to provide services to the participants in the program for the period of July 9th, 2024 through July 8th, 2025, for a contract total amount not to exceed $37,500.
Okay, leave is granted. Thank you, Member Evans. Legislative and Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In Washington, the House has passed 4 of the 12 appropriation bills out of the full chamber: Defense, Homeland Security, Milcon VA, and State Foreign Ops and related agencies. 6 of the 12 bills have passed the full Appropriations Committee. More to come in the weeks ahead, and I'll tell you in just a second why that's important to DuPage County. But first, I was curious, what the heck is Milcon VA? Well, if you're curious, like I was, it commits fully funding veterans' health care. It also invests in quality of life priorities to ensure our service members have quality housing and increased access to child care, which I thought was very important. And this piece of legislation came out of the Military Construction and Veterans Affairs Committee. So why are the appropriation bills important to DuPage County? DuPage had 3 earmarks, community project funding items that Greg Bales and company worked with the county on. Those items had their funding amounts released. So I think 2 weeks ago, maybe when I talked about this, I told you what was asked for, and now I can tell you what was received. Representative Delia Ramirez requested $4.1 million for the 3rd Avenue Stormwater Management Project in the Addison Creek watershed in unincorporated Bensonville. $1.1 million was approved. Representative Bill Foster requested $750,000 for Willowbrook Corners infrastructure and mobility. $250,000 was approved. And Representative Raja Krishnamurthy requested $300,000 for the Newton Street and 2nd Avenue flood reduction project in Glen Ellen, and all $300,000 was approved in that. In Springfield, our lobbyist Chip Humes says that the Illinois General Assembly remains adjourned until the fall veto session. A couple of new laws. Governor Pritzker signed SB 1, which creates the new Department of Early Childhood. The new agency will focus exclusively on early childhood programs and services. And one other note, locally, we're getting close to the annual renewal of lobbyist contracts. So the Legislative Committee, mark your calendars, will meet after County Board on Tuesday, August 13th to discuss our lobbyists and renewing their contracts. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Member Desart. Public Works and Member Garcia.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. For my committee update, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the first item we'll be voting on. This is for the rehabilitation of the Woodridge Green Valley wastewater treatment plant. This is for equipment that has been in place since 1984, so it is well overdue being replaced. So I'm hoping that we can get full support on that, and I'm looking forward to having the energy savings that will be brought with the new equipment we'll be getting from that. So with that, I make a motion to approve PWP 001524, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Joseph J. Henderson and Son, Inc. for the rehabilitation of the Woodridge Green Valley wastewater treatment plant headworks and grit removal process for the period of July 9th, 2024 to November 30th, 2026 for a total contract amount not to exceed $18,869,424.90 as amended.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Garcia.
Aye.
Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay.
Aye.
Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
And Galassi.
Okay, Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve FMP 003024, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Fox Valley Fire and Safety Company for preventative maintenance, testing, and repair of the non-Edwards system technology, fire alarm, and life safety systems for county facilities for the period of August 28, 2024 through August 27, 2025, for a total contract amount not to exceed $117,500.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Garcia. Oh, is there a question? Somebody say leave, please. Okay, thank you. Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve PWO 000324, an ordinance regulating parking facilities for electric vehicles on the DuPage County campus.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Garcia. And now with Member Zay on Zoom, we will have Vice Chair Grant Eckhoff to give the report. The tall guy in the back row. And handsome, yes. Thank you, Sheila.
Anyway, moving along with county business, I would move approval of SMR 2-24, recommendation for the approval of intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and York Township Road District for the Luther High Ridge Flood Mitigation Project.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Eckhoff.
Aye.
Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay.
Aye.
Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert. And Desart.
Member Eckhoff. Member Eckhoff.
Thank you. Just
Do
wanted to be called.
you need me to say it 3 times? Member Eckhoff.
I didn't hear it the first two, so sorry. I'd move approval of SMP 16-24, recommendation for the approval of contract with BME Electric, Inc. for the purchase of a diesel emergency engine generator for the Armstrong Park Flood Control Facility for the Stormwater Management Department for the period July 9, 2024 through November 30th, 2025 for a contract total amount not to exceed $153,224.
Leave is granted. Member Eckhoff.
Thank you. I'd move approval of SMP 17-24, recommendation to enter into an agreement between the County of DuPage and Gasparic Alberts Consulting LLC for on-call professional land surveying services for hydraulic modeling and floodplain mapping assistance for stormwater management for the period July 9, 2024 through November 30, 2025 for a contract total amount not to exceed $60,000.
Leave is granted. Member Eckhoff.
Thank you. I'd move approval of SMP 18-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract with Martin Construction, Inc. for the Luther High Ridge Flood Relief Project and Stormwater Management Department for the period July 9, 2024 through November 30, 2028 for a contract total amount not to exceed $1,580,699.20.
Leave is granted. Member Eckhoff.
Thank you. I'd move approval of SMP 19-24, recommendation for the approval of an easement agreement between the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County and the County of DuPage for stormwater sewer within the York High Ridge Forest Preserve.
Leave is granted. Member Eckhoff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd move approval of SM 1-24, ordinance declaring the assignment of easements for the Forest Preserve of DuPage County to the County of DuPage, necessary and convenient for the County of DuPage for the Luther High Ridge Drainage Improvement Project in the High Ridge Forest Preserve.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Eckhoff. And Technology and Member Yu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'd like to move to combine item 24-1935 and 24-1936.
Okay. All in favor?
Thank you. And then I'd like to move to discharge Technology Committee for item 24-1935, authorization for a GIS staff member attend the Ezra User Conference in San Diego, California from July 14, 2024 through July 19, 2024. Travel to include hotel mileage per diem of $3,661, and item 24-1936, authorization for a GIS staff member attend the Ezra User Conference in San Diego from July 14, 2024 through July 19, 2024 for a cost total of $3,661.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Yu. Oh. Roll call, please.
It was to discharge.
Oh, to discharge. Roll call, please. Sorry. All ayes. All in favor?
Aye. Okay. And now I would like to move to approve item 24-1935 and item 24-1936.
Roll call, please.
Yu.
Aye.
Zay.
Aye.
Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. And Tornatore.
Okay. Thank you, Member Yu. Transportation and Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think once a year we don't have any items, and this is the day.
Words I never thought I'd hear from you.
And I don't have to talk fast. Anyway, we are looking forward to welcoming Stephen Travia as our new Department of Transportation head August 1st. And otherwise, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Member Ozog. Okay. Old business. Do we have any old business before we move on to what's on our agenda? Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question for our staff and transportation. I saw on the news yesterday that there's a proposal to combine the RTA, Metro Pace, and CTA, and the first public hearing on that is today in Chicago, but they're going to be having several public hearings, and they, on the news, they said that for DuPage, Will, and Kendall County, there's a public hearing at 10 a.m. on August 8th. They do not have a location for that, but I just wanted to make sure that we're on top of that,
Yes,
and that
so
we have
we-
a seat at that table.
Yeah, so we have staff, actually, the agenda was changed because we couldn't attend, I couldn't attend today, so they accommodated that and changed the agenda for today's meeting. The meeting in August may be here, but we don't have the exact date yet. They're still working on the exact date, so everybody will know when that comes up.
That's awesome, and it'll be possible then for the whole Transportation Committee to attend?
Absolutely,
one?
it's open to the
Okay.
public.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, then we need to move on to what's already on our agenda, and that is an update from our auditor. Thank you, Bill.
There, that good? Okay. First, I want to start talking about why there were two sent out. When the first audit report was sent out Friday afternoon, a page failed to be scanned. That's the beginning and end of it. The report that was sent out was the same report that was given to the clerk's office and Nick Hotmeyer on Friday the 28th. Not one word was changed. Now, the objective of the audit report is really quite narrow. It's to evaluate internal controls regarding the accurate and timely delivery of county board resolutions to recipients outside the county. Obviously, it's very important to the county that resolutions be received by the people that they're sent to. When reviewing this, I believe we should focus on the recommendations, which are reciprocal recommendations. For example, a resolution should clearly state where it's being sent to. And if a resolution doesn't clearly state, the clerk should call and say, where do you want me to send this to? That's a reciprocal obligation. Also, the obligation to coordinate responsibility to follow up. For example, calling Springfield, did you receive our cannabis ordinance? That is, again, I believe is a reciprocal obligation, both the county clerk and the originating department. It's a shared responsibility that requires collaboration and coordination. Now, in the response, the Chief Administrative Officer has agreed to work to develop a system of internal controls and procedures so that the originating department, whether it comes to the county board office or the finance department, they will also either confirm that the clerk has followed up or they will follow up to make sure it's been received. Now, the county clerk's response doesn't talk about anything that was in this audit report. And as of now, I do not know if the county clerk intends to implement any of the recommendations that I've made about cover letters, about using tracked delivery, about agreeing to coordinate with the originating department to confirm receipt, about agreeing that they should call for an address if it doesn't. I don't know anything about that. Instead, they apparently quarrel with my selection of audit objectives. They want me to audit something different than what I audited. Now, let me say I have no reason to believe that any county department attempted to follow up with the Department of Revenue. Now, I can't audit that. I'm trying to prove a negative, but I have no reason to believe the county board office, anybody else, tried to contact the Department of Revenue to confirm receipt of the cannabis ordinance. Going forward, the assurances given us by the Chief Administrative Officer resolves that. There is apparently no county board rule, no county board procedure about who's responsible for following up. In January of 2023, 18 months ago, I had a conversation with the Chief Administrative Officer, Nick Hotmeyer. He told me that the departments all understood they needed to follow up. They could not rely on the clerk to make sure something would be delivered. So the originating department would do the follow-up. Now, whether the clerk should do it or not, if the clerk is not going to do it, the originating department has to do it. That has to get done. Now, on the topic of revenue projections, I previously said it was worth looking into whether there were revenue projections made in the fall of 2019 when the cannabis ordinance was adopted, what are we expecting? And then it's simply true that neither of the two subsequent budgets included cannabis revenue in the budget. Now, to answer that, the person I need to talk to is the prior CFO. And without interviewing the prior CFO, I can't answer what revenue projections were prepared. I can't answer why cannabis was not in those budgets. Again, I can't write an audit finding about that because I don't have any evidence. But what I've heard, again, not as an audit finding because I don't have the evidence, is that the prior CFO simply never documented this within the records of the finance department and did not share this information with the deputy CFOs that are still here. Therefore, they were taken by surprise. It's not, if it wasn't in their records and if they weren't told, they have no way of knowing. And there's nothing for me to audit unless the prior CFO agrees to give me an 8-hour interview, which I thought was totally unrealistic. That was going to happen. Also, the current CFO has presented to the county board, I've heard and watched it, that he understands that revenue projection is important. He's taken steps to resolve that issue. So in January of 2023, I considered 3 points. It was acknowledged by the Chief Administrative Officer that the originating departments should follow up, that you cannot simply rely on the clerk to make sure it gets there. So to call Springfield, did you get it? Second, auditing cannabis revenue projections, whether they were prepared, how they were prepared, would not be feasible without the cooperation of the prior CFO. And that CFO was gone. I did not anticipate that would be possible. And third, the current CFO has assured the county board from the same podium that that the finance department was addressing any revenue projection issues that might exist. Therefore, in January of 2023, I discontinued the audit. There was no point because all that could be accomplished was accomplished. And then when it came up as an issue again, we pulled out the old files, and we were able to condense it to 4 pages. I'm very proud of the fact that I got this condensed to 4 pages. I will answer questions that are limited to the audit report itself, and the larger questions are not appropriate for this morning.
Okay, Member Cahill and then Member LaPlante.
Thank you very much, Auditor White. I really appreciate your report. It was really good, and I appreciate it. First of all, I want to look forward, and I want to talk about the report. As a CPA and a business owner for many years, and I worked for Ernst & Young for 10 years, certified mail, return receipt requested, is how you deal with the Illinois Department of Revenue and how you deal with the IRS. And that is how all entities should be dealing with filing those resolutions. When you talk about following up, you get a return receipt requested back. You know then that was filed, and it's legal. You can go into court and say, I paid my taxes on this day. See the postmark date? I filed that letter with the IRS on that date. So number one, that should be a procedure that should be implemented right away. Certified mail, return receipt requested. I also really want to talk about how important it is that the clerk's office heed your recommendations and set policies and procedures. And why is this important? You identified in your audit report, significant deficiencies exist in the internal controls of the office of the county clerk related to the filing of resolutions. Why are deficiencies in internal control important? You know, and I know, but do the public know? Does everyone know? Number one, it can lead to inaccurate financial reporting. It can have an increased risk of fraud, non-compliance with regulations. These are all effects when you don't have internal controls in a department. It also has a loss of public trust. Third, we'd also have to have the auditors come out. It'd be an increased cost to us to have the auditors do more work because of the problems and the weaknesses in internal control. I brought up last time when the clerk's office did not want to go out to bid for all the contracts. This impacts funding and grants. So we have two big issues here. They have to implement your audit report recommendations so that the public feels confident that the clerk's office is operating efficiently. Addressing internal controls weaknesses is crucial to ensure accurate and reliable financial reporting, maintain compliance, and uphold public trust in the financial management of any governmental entity. And that's all I wanted to make sure today, is that the clerk's office can give us assurance going forward that they will heed the recommendations and set up policies and procedures to eliminate these deficiencies in internal controls. Because you can have one deficiency and you can have another deficiency here, and then you can not go out for bid on county contracts. Guess what? That leads up to a material weakness in internal control that could clearly affect our financial statements and our bond rating.
I have a couple of brief comments. One, regarding certified mail. In looking at this, the Kane County clerk used Priority Mail Express. That was tracked. So whether certified is better, but they had to track it. And it's rather amusing because they tried to deliver it 2 times on Saturday, and no one was.
A private delivery service has to go to an address, okay? A certified mail can go to a P.O. box,
right,
and there's
exactly,
different P.O. boxes.
But the point is, adequate tracking, absolutely. An additional comment, you talked about the importance of internal control for financial reporting. As you know, the external auditors do a relatively limited review of internal control, and a much deeper dive into the documentation of internal control will improve operations going beyond. Something that I actually, as part of taking the coursework I need to qualify for the CPA, I wrote a paper on why studying Sarbanes-Oxley would be good for government auditors, even though it does not apply, because it goes the importance of documenting internal controls below the materiality threshold of the external auditor makes it now.
But it's a combination of the several deficiencies that add up
Right.
to one material weakness. So it's a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, then it creates a material weakness.
The final point is, as an independent elected official, nobody has the authority to tell the county clerk how to run their office. I make recommendations, and my recommendations in the past have fallen on deaf ears. Nobody in the county has the legal authority to require that these recommendations be accepted. It's interesting, you can tell me if I'm wrong about that, but that's my understanding, which is a problem.
Okay, now we have Member LaPlante, Krajewski, and then I have Zay and Chaplin who are on Zoom.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. Thank you, Auditor White, for being here today to answer questions. We've been waiting with bated breath for this audit report. Such bated breath. Let's go back to when it first started. So I've been bringing this up. I have been persistent. I have not let it go. I have been dogged in my pursuit of finding out the truth, what happened here. I brought it up in real time, May 9th, 2022. I brought it up again, January 10th, 2023, when we were discussing committee assignments, and I said, we have to be careful about putting certain people in certain positions when we have never done an audit to find out how we got into this situation in the first place. And then I brought it up again, May 14th, 2024. That was 8 weeks ago. What if I hadn't asked these questions? What if I hadn't kept after this? We wouldn't be here today. This is what it has taken. I don't know that it should take this many attempts. And I've been asking since May 14th, every 2 weeks, do you have the audit yet? Do you have the audit yet? Do you have the audit yet? So now here we are. We would never have gotten any resolution. No new mechanisms would have been recommended to put in place, to Member Cahill's point, for all of these internal controls that failed us. We have to go back and see what went wrong, where the dam broke, so that we can build it and make it stronger going forward. So I kept speaking up to great personal and professional peril. But this is what good governance looks like. This is a nonpartisan issue. Accountability, transparency, honesty, integrity. Following state statutes, doing the job you're elected to do, answering questions, addressing concerns, have absolutely nothing to do with party. This type of oversight is our job. I'm concerned with how hard I had to push just to get this audit in front of us. So to your point, where you're saying that you have no legal authority over another department, right? But that should not preclude you from doing your job. I understand what you're saying. You're saying that your recommendations have fallen on deaf ears with the clerk. Okay, but that's out of your control is what you're saying. What's in your control is providing this board with the information that we requested, an audit from the auditor. So right now, feels like a little bit of that Spider-Man meme where they're just both pointing at each other. Who was wrong first is sort of what this game seems to be. But the point stands, when we ask for transparency, when we ask for accountability, we deserve it. The people of DuPage County deserve it. I'm really not happy that it took this long to get here. And it took me being this persistent and dogged in my pursuit. But here we are. Now, I don't believe that it's your opinion to say that you didn't think you should release an audit. I don't know that that's your place to say that. It's what we requested. It is your job. We have an issue. We lost millions of dollars. We have to make sure that this never happens again. That's the goal. The only way we can make sure it never happens again is to understand what happened in the first place. Where did the wheels fly off?
The only brief comment is that in January of 2023, the Chief Administrator Officer understood what needed to be done to keep these from not being delivered, and the Finance Department was working on their issues. Other than that, I have no additional comment.
Well, I thank you again for being here, for speaking up. We need to hear more about how the clerk's office is going to implement these recommended mechanisms. And we have to work together as a board. This is our job collectively. And again, this should not be a partisan issue. We should all be concerned with good governance. Thank you.
Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Big up Member Cahill. She's much more experienced than I am at auditing. I'm a CPA, but I only have 8 years at Deloitte. She had 10 years at Arthur Andersen. So I only spent 8 years there. So again, and you know, at the big 4 accounting firms, you know, you do a lot. So Member Cahill, I know you're very good with that. But this was a pretty simple assignment. I know, Bill, you came to us and said you were going to do a more thorough audit. But this is an internal control issue. It happened. It didn't get to Springfield. We lost a lot of money. So how did it happen and what recommendations are we going to put in place? I know you said you shelved it. I read the article in the Herald the other day. You said it was water under the bridge. It's not water under the bridge. It's an internal control issue. And the report that you have is very good. You came up with the internal controls that need to be put in place by the clerk's office, the administrative office, and at least we got confirmation one's going to go forward. I did see in there you interviewed the old clerk, and it was they had a policy, but it wasn't written down. Again, policies probably should be written down. I'm not sure if you went into the vault to see if the old clerk had actually sent out ones in the past years, or maybe the clerk before him, certified mail, and they had those down in the vault. Possibly they did, which would at least verify but verbally what they said to you. So again, you know, we'll ask the clerk if she's going to at least recommend following those internal controls, make sure it doesn't happen in the future. The one big thing, though, I know you talked about the prior CFO and whether he was going to have a separate line item or he baked it into the sales tax number projections. I don't know. You don't know because we weren't able to interview him.
They don't know. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Except him.
Yeah, correct. But the one big thing that I think you are missing in your report and everything else is that your statutory duty is to provide quarterly audits, quarterly revenue projections. I think as state statute says, revenue projections in addition to the revenue. Had you done your job required by the state to do the quarterly reports, albeit maybe they were late, you would have identified also that there was missing revenue if you'd have done it, you know, even if you were 6 months late. So that would have been known to you, and you would have alerted us. It didn't get verified until we had Finance Chair Chaplin brought our CFO on board in a meeting to show us our revenues through 9 months. And as soon as I saw that number, I knew it was wrong. And again, you know, it was a good thing because we almost missed 6 months. But I think that's one point that I haven't heard you address, that's also your responsibility to do these quarterly audits. You would have saw revenue missing and raised the issue. And then just the last one is, I know we've been asking for a report, and Member Eckhoff picked up on that the other day about the yellow book, and we had the yellow book, and we have to send the report for comments to the clerk before you could issue it to us. But yet, about a month ago, you issued a report regarding the coroner's office, sent it to, I think, the CFO and Nick, the chief of staff, but without getting his comment on it. In fact, I talked to the coroner who said that if you'd have just picked up the phone and called him, that they did not double bill a vendor. It was an amendment to a contract, and your report was to go back and collect that money. But yet, you didn't call him or reach out to him for comments. Had you done that, like the yellow book said, or at least you told us the yellow book says you're supposed to send it out, so it seems like sometimes things are just being made up as they go along. We couldn't get the report because of a yellow book, but yet you sent out other ones to other elected officials without their comments before you issue it. So again, I'm glad you got the report done. Hopefully we'll ask the clerk about the internal controls. I'm glad staff's going to implement what you suggested, which I think is good. That's going to take care of this happening in the future. But again, you know, the one thing I didn't hear is, had you done your quarterly audits, albeit if they were late, you would have identified the missing revenue also. Thank you.
All I'm going to comment about the quarterly reports is that we discussed them before, but when we're caught up, there will be an explanation why the completion of the quarterly reports would not have uncovered this issue. But that'll come not today, because that's not finished. And I'm not going to discuss that any further this morning.
Your microphone's not on.
How you could have not missed the revenue if you're doing the report and you don't see any revenue for sales tax. You see income tax, you see sales tax, and you don't see a cannabis use tax. You don't see a cannabis sales tax. I don't know how you're not going to see that.
Okay, I want to ask a question just briefly, because we've been talking about this ad nauseum. Was there ever a conversation in Finance Committee or of the full board with a new revenue source and what you were going to use that money for? Member Krajewski.
There was just some broad comments about we need to talk about what to do with it, but we never had a specific discussion, like I mentioned today at Finance, that maybe we should start putting a portion of the cannabis tax in there. That was just a very broad comments once or twice by people saying we're going to have to address maybe what to do with the revenue source. And some people had a couple ideas, but we never had a more in-depth discussion of we're going to allocate X dollars to any specific program. In fact, we've gone almost 3.5 years now without having that discussion. And I raised it at Finance earlier today that we should have it. My suggestion is some goes to mental health, maybe the Community Crisis Center, but whether it's a floor right now, we get about $3 million in cannabis tax, and we say any excess, because we have new ones coming online. One just stopped at Westmont, and there's a couple more. Maybe any increase continually in the future goes into the, but that we have not had any general discussion, to my knowledge. Just we need to talk about that. It was the same with the RTA tax. We hardly had any discussion about putting some into transportation. Every now and then, it was all used for public safety.
Okay.
That's the best.
I think those conversations are important. I can say from, when we did this at the state level, granted legislature is different, we didn't pass the bill until I made sure we got 30% of the marijuana tax for mental health for the entire state. So I think my point is simply that I think going forward, we all need to be cognizant of, we very seldom ever have a new revenue source. I think it's a very valid thing to say that we should all have been saying, where's this money? Okay, including, and I will say this as the chair, I think there's some accountability in the chair's department too as well. Now, when this happened in Kane County, it did fall on the chair. But also have to say that not having a process or not taking accountability for not actually mailing it or getting it to them is a very valid issue. So now we have Member Zay and then Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It just, there were 3 people who knew about the cannabis tax, where it was a CFO, was also Chairman Cronin, Chairman of Finance Bob Larson, and Vice Chairman of Finance Jim Zay, who knew about the cannabis tax. Nobody talked to us about that. I guess you can't find anybody. At that time, it was such a new tax, we did not want to put it in the budget because we didn't know what kind of revenue was going to come in. And once revenue started coming in, we were going to figure out where to put it and how to use it. So again, the auditor, I appreciate him coming here. I can't believe we waited this long for this report. I guess you gave it the old college try, but we're no closer to knowing anything of how this happened or, why it happened. I mean, your recommendations of changing internal controls, I don't know if you've watched any of these meetings and what the clerk has said, that she has complete control of her office, including internal controls. So you trying to say she should do something differently is not going to happen. I mean, you should know that. She doesn't listen to our rules. She not going to listen to the auditor's rules. The only one I see during this whole process that said that we're going to make changes is Nick Cottonmeyer. And basically he says we're going to make changes because we're going to have to do the job for that department or that countywide official to make sure we don't lose any revenue in the future. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is a black eye for DuPage. I've never seen the biggest bunch of finger pointing and blaming everyone else and no one taking responsibility whatsoever. Mistakes happen, but we're no closer with this report than we were. And we had to wait this long for this just very narrow audit report from you is mind-boggling. And we got it twice, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But again, I mean, the questions are, you know, what's going on down in the clerk's office? Who's running the clerk's office at this point? I mean, we've had these discussions. We haven't seen the clerk in a long time. I know I had an issue when we had to get stuff signed by the clerk's office for the water commission. We set an appointment up and someone disappeared and went downstairs and came back with a signature. So I don't know who's running the clerk's office and the audits. I mean, again, I give Nick Cottonmeyer, our staff, credit saying, moving forward, we're going to make these changes and we're going to have to double check and make sure other people are doing their jobs. Thank you.
Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I actually agree with Chair Conroy's a lot of her comments here. I believe that the process was flawed throughout. And we all know that human error happens and that people make mistakes. And I was the one that actually asked for this report. And my intention of asking for this report was not to cast blame on a department or an individual, but was to really get some insight into, what is going on with our internal controls throughout the county. And like I said, I believe the process was flawed throughout, and nobody did anything intentional. It has to be said, people are going to make mistakes. Just for an example, a page was missing from the auditor's report that was sent Friday and another report was sent out. And that's normally what happens when things get, when human error happens, right? That happens. So I don't really want to dwell on what happened in the past, but I think two important parts to this, I'm glad that you did the audit on the clerk's office, which showed that maybe they need to document their mailings better. But I agree with Member Zay. I think this report fell short. We're missing anything about how do we make sure that our resolutions and ordinances are fully executed? What internal controls are in place to make sure that that's there? What internal controls are in place? And I thank you, Nick and Jeff. You guys are, good employees and hardworking, but what is in there to ensure that we are adequately tracking and receiving our sales tax receipts? Because this isn't the first time this happened. We know this happened in 2016 with the gaming tax. So I think if we really want to be better as a county and we want to improve ourselves, we have to have transparency and honest reports and debates and things like that. And really not to put people on the spot or to cast blame or to call people out, but to improve the county and improve our processes. And when we get a report like this, I don't think it helps anybody, the board, our voters, or anybody. I would really like to see it a little more detail on some of the items that you addressed to me in your preliminary report about tracking revenues. That was a big concern of yours, and it's not addressed in this report at all. So I don't understand, but thank you for the efforts.
I just want to say that as chair, we've gone around and around looking for blame here, and that's justified. But my concern as chair going forwards is that we make the correction so this never happens again. And I do have great concern that we can't seem to get the clerk to commit to those changes. So that will require my chief of staff, Nick Cottonmeyer, and I, CFO, to do more work. So that does need to be said. I have Member Guston and then Member Dessart.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And you are right on. I totally agree with what you have just said. Auditor White, I'm so sad that you're on the hot seat today. However, you have made it perfectly clear that you have no control over the clerk's office. The one thing we do have control over is the clerk's budget. And if we have to hire somebody to oversee the clerk's office and pay that person, then we can reduce the clerk's budget, I would think, by the amount of the expense that we have to incur to make sure that things in that office are done adequately and effectively and transparently. So I would look to our staff to see what our options are as county board members, knowing in fact that we really, from what our auditor has said and our legal staff, that we don't have any way of making them comply with even just the basic, practical, fundamental bookkeeping and accounting and recording and filing requirements. That's number one. Number two, the marijuana, the mental health, and the drug prevention. That's something I don't remember us having a conversation about, but I would love to see the marijuana tax, sales tax, be used for things for prevention of use and education, and also obviously of mental health, because they're all connected. The one thing moving forward, though, is Auditor White, quarterly reports. And I know last meeting you talked about the quarterly reports, but you couldn't get to it because there was just so much stuff going on. And we shared that, you know, you wanted to get a program, right, to be able to do some of the work that employees couldn't do because you didn't either have the staffing or the timing or whatever. I just asked, did you have an opportunity to talk to our director in technology, IT, to see if there is a program, boom, boom, that they can get up and running to be able to help your department to get those things done?
So the comment I want to make about that is that we committed to the end of July, and we will then give a full report on, well, we'll issue the reports.
So you'll have something for us by the end of July?
When we issue the reports, yeah.
So our next meeting is until August, so we'll get it in August then, right? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Member to start.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not for blaming anybody. I'm all about transparency as well. It's why I got into running for office in the first place when I was back on the school board. But I think that this audit is perfunctory. It's the absolute minimum of an effort. I want to know, you know, just for transparency, where is the information on how the finance department could have tracked this information better? It is the finance department's job to take in tax dollars from the state. So how is it that they didn't notice the missing millions? We don't know. It's not in this audit. The county board office wasn't part of this audit, and it's standard operating procedure that the author of a resolution is the one who follows up by that office. We don't know how procedures could have been tightened in the future because you didn't include the county board office in this audit. Your only focus of this audit was the clerk's office, when 2 years ago you said that the clerk's office was not to blame at all. In fact, in your in this memo it says the audit objective is to evaluate internal controls, identify roles and responsibilities for the timely and accurate delivery of the county ordinances, but you only audited one department. And so I believe, like Member Zay said, we are no closer to answers with this. The county board chair or the designees, says our board rules, shall ensure that all orders, resolutions, and regulations of the county board are faithfully executed. So it's the county board chair or their designees, before you were here, Chair Conroy, that is who is in charge of following up. The other ordinance says, regardless of why the ordinance was not received in Springfield, there should not have been a single point of failure. These are your words. There should have been procedures to catch that mistake. Mistake happens for various reasons. Those are your words. These are your words. Local governments receive a separate distribution for each tax type. So the cannabis tax, we knew, was going to have two revenue streams. And again, finance should have, they knew that obviously. And when they didn't see those streams coming through, they should have, red flagged it. And yet we don't know if they did or not because they're not part of this audit. Couple of other notes. From your memo, I think a definition is needed here. From your memo, it says that IDOR did not receive a certified copy of the ordinance in 2019. You also mentioned another certified copy, and 3 or 4 places you mentioned certified copy.
Just so you were clear, a certified copy is like the cover letter of a fax. It means nothing. It says, here is the resolution that's coming, and then underneath, there's the resolutions that's there. I think in all of your comments, you meant certified mail, as Member Cahill was talking about. You mean certified copy that just says, we are sending you this resolution, here's the resolution. Anyway, those are my comments. I think, again, this report is perfunctory. It doesn't include every entity that should have been included. And again, if we want transparency, if we really, truly want to fix the disconnects, we need to have a more thorough audit. Thank you.
To that point a little bit, I would say, you know, we're trying to go back and figure out where the breaks happen, right? I think there's potentially different points, but the first point, which needs, I feel, would be very beneficial for everyone, if it could be in the clerk's procedures, to make sure anything going to the state for new revenue is delivered certified mail. I will personally volunteer to drive it there myself because I look for many ways. I mean, I have begged, borrowed, and stealed for mental health throughout the entire state of Illinois, so I am happy to drive to Springfield with it if this happens again. I think, Sam, you had a question or wanted to say something? Okay, so, I also say, Member Tornatore, when you're finished, I would like both Nick and Jeff to come up because we have taken this incredibly seriously and they have worked very hard to try to figure out how we make sure from my office's perspective, this doesn't happen again, regardless of what is or isn't done in the future. Member Tornatore.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Auditor White. I feel badly for you because I think you were given an untenable task because the very questions that you were trying to ask were never answered. I really don't want to go back into the history of this, but I think it's important that when the county board rules are quoted about the chair or its designee making sure things are taken care of with Springfield, historically, that designee was the clerk who sent things to Springfield. This was not done for the cannabis tax. Now, whether or not it should have been done, or there should have been a follow-up with the chair's office, is not something that apparently had been done in the past. And I presume is going to be done now, because if there's one thing we can learn from this, and I'm not an auditor, is that we can't rely on the clerk to do any of this. If there's going to be an ordinance and it's going to come from whatever entity in this particular county board, then as the chair has indicated, we have to be sure that he gets to Springfield. And I'll ride shotgun with you to go to Springfield. That's the only way you're going to be able to be sure, because the clerk has not responded to any of your suggestions. Internal controls like tracking are wonderful if we knew that something was being sent that could be tracked. But if it's not sent by the clerk, then all of these suggestions kind of fall on deaf ears. And, you know, I'm still angry at some members of this board. Some may not be here anymore, but some are, who called out our CFO and our Chief Administrative Officer and the former chair as if there was some grand conspiracy regarding this ordinance being sent to Springfield. That was improper then, it's improper now. If we want to talk about transparency, let's start. I have no beef with the clerk, I never have, but let's start with transparency there, because we don't have any from the clerk's office. So if you can't make a suggestion, or we as a county board or the chair can't make a suggestion to the clerk, then perhaps there's no point to making them anymore, because all we're doing is creating insanity. So, Chair, I hope your office is now instituting a program, and if we've got an ordinance, you're going to be sure, somebody in that office is going to be sure it gets down there, certified mail, FedEx, UPS, drive it down, it doesn't matter. Because quite frankly, I can't trust the clerk to do what we always thought the clerk was gonna do. And thank you for doing what you've done. It may not have been what everybody wanted to see, but at least you did it, which is more than I could say for some other elected officials. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to echo that to the auditor. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being honest with the board, and I appreciate you being open to making the changes to make sure that we are transparent in the future. I really appreciate that. And if it's okay.
I have one brief
Okay,
comment.
go
and
ahead.
It's trivial in some way compared with the recent comments, but I want to make sure there's an understanding. When I talk about a certified ordinance, okay, the Office of the County Clerk attaches a document to it that certifies this is a true and authentic original. In the court system, they now have electronic, where they put a code number, they print a code number on the bottom of the document. You go online, you type the number in. This is not a forgery. This is not a photocopy. All certified ordinance means is it was certified by the clerk to be a true and correct copy of the original. Nothing to do with certified mail, simply verification. It is the authentic ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to bring up Nick Kopmeyer and Jeff Martinovich.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to clarify a couple things, because obviously when we received the auditor's report, went through it closely, my memo back to the auditor and contained in the packet, I said that I would reach out, develop plans for the EOs, the other departments to make sure this doesn't happen again. I'm happy to report that the second this happened back in 2022, Jeff and I sat down. We've developed a number of policies and procedures, and they're continuing to develop under the current chair to make sure this doesn't happen again, at least with the financial side. So that was made very apparent from the get-go that we wanted to make sure this couldn't happen again from the same type of issues with the cannabis. What I will do is a step further is I will send something, develop something for the other elected officials, the other departments, and I will kind of recommend those same type of programs to make sure this wouldn't happen to some of their ordinances. Now, the EOs will make a decision whether they adopt it or not, but I do want to have Jeff go over all of the different procedures we've put in place already since 2022 and on, so that at least you as a board can hopefully, understand that this won't happen again as far as relying on one point to send it out. So Jeff, you want to go through?
So as far as internal controls, obviously the finance department has a multitude of internal controls that we're responsible for. As part of our procedures in finance, we use a program called OneNote through Microsoft. And each of our functional areas is responsible, including budget, grants, accounting, for documenting all of their internal control procedures, how they go about conducting business. So when this occurred, one of the things that we did immediately was update our OneNote internal control procedures to make sure that if we have an ordinance that is required to be filed with an outside agency, such as the Department of Revenue, that finance will now be responsible for actually filing that ordinance. And that would be done through certified mail. For example, every year we are responsible for providing and sending in our annual property tax levy. Even though we work in the same building, we actually file that property tax levy with the clerk's office, make sure that it's stamped received, it's put into our files. Then, as CFO, I make sure that in March, we receive an email from the clerk's office that requires us to review the tax levy before it's actually published with all of the rates. It's signed off, it's emailed back to Kathy King in that office, it's put back into our files, so there's an assurance there that our property tax levy is actually filed correctly. As a finance director in municipal, that's something, we sent out those ordinances certified mail, making sure that it was signed for, that the property tax levy was received, because it's a tremendous amount of money. Not having that file and not receiving that money would be very detrimental. But those are procedures that we've taken on and implemented. So as far as the cannabis tax ordinance or any other revenue ordinance, it starts there. We work with the Department of Revenue. We check the annual website now quarterly to make sure that we're receiving the proper amount of sales tax, income tax, cannabis tax revenue. We actually get a check now from the Department of Revenue for cannabis tax, and we make sure that that's included on our general ledger each month. We bring this forward maybe every 6 months for review to update the Finance Committee. Our staff attends webinars with the Department of Revenue, making sure that we know of any changes that are going on. We implemented OpenGov. Before this happened, we didn't have a system like OpenGov that gave us a lot of flexibility for reporting and recording transactions. And I've also, as the CFO, practiced inclusivity, if you will. I don't know if that's a word, but the deputy CFOs and the management staff in the finance department are all part of a lot of these discussions that happen. So it's not just one person, the CFO, that would know that an ordinance like this was adopted. So I think the big takeaway as far as finance is that we have these controls in place. Our external auditors, Baker Tilly, do rely on that as part of their control procedures. And that's how we're handling that.
So, I mean, a takeaway from it is no matter what the ordinances say regarding revenue, we are responsible now. We will make sure they go out. We will make sure they're confirmed. It is a CFO's and my responsibility. We're not going to risk another single point of failure. That it's not going to happen again. The one thing I would like to say is I did prepare a little bit of a timeline, and I just want to make everybody clear about, you know, as the original ordinance should have been filed to when we got, you know, would have gotten our first check. There was 12 months in there before we would have even known anything was wrong. So that's how long of a delay there was from when the check was filed. Now, the good thing is we have the safeguards in place. There is not a single point of failure, and it's going to be very clear. I will make that same practice, best practice, to the other EOs, the other department heads, because they also have ordinances that must go down to Springfield. That we don't have responsibility for, but I'm sure most of them watch this as well. I'm sure that they've implemented that as well.
Okay, Member Eckhoff and then Member Desart.
I heard some discussion at the beginning that this happened in 2016 with the gaming revenue. Is that correct?
I don't know. I mean, once again, I was not in place until mid-2020. He didn't get here till late 2020. I don't know. I was Public Works Director at that point. I'm not sure.
Well, somebody could just find out.
I'll definitely. I think Member Krajewski might have more knowledge on that one.
Okay, Member Krajewski, you're recognized.
Yeah, no, it was brought up by the auditor who was looking at financials doing the quarterly audit, and there was a number of, the revenue was down, and it was over a couple years from the off-track betting revenue. And when they did the internal audit and then they looked at it, one of the OTBs, off-track betting parlors, was not paying us. And that came to the attention, and then there was internal control procedures that were recommended both for, I think, Finance Department and for the Treasurer's Office to confirm to make sure that those, you know, continue to be collected in the future. I think it was about $300,000 that we wound up getting back once we found out they weren't being paid. I know I talked with Member Chaplin. I sent her the audit report. They're online. All the audit reports are since 2013 are on the auditor's website that they've posted for transparency, and you can go on there and look. But that one I think is in November of 2016. You pull it off and read it. I know I did send it to Member Chaplin. That's what she was referencing. But it was discovered that we hadn't been being paid, and then there were internal controls recommended so that those wouldn't happen again. And I'm not sure if I assume the treasurer and the finance department have been following those internal controls, but it was, again, that's what, remember what our Auditor White did today was do the internal controls to make sure it doesn't happen again, assuming that you put them in place.
All right, so the difference is we were able to recoup the money that we lost.
Correct. That one, they hadn't been paying us. Unfortunately, with the sales tax, you can't go back and collect when it hasn't even been implemented because all the people who bought it, they didn't know, the businesses didn't know to charge that.
Okay. And then I guess my takeaway from all of this is, as Mr. Torre said, for years, historically, we had trusted the clerk's office to do and perform their job, and the mistake we made was we trusted the new clerk because they weren't doing their job. And now that we've put our own modifications in place to make sure that they're doing their job, I don't think that you can go, I mean, is the clerk going to tell you, yes, I sent this by certified mail? I know you said you're going to send it by certified mail, but are you asking them to see if they did their job?
We will confirm with the state agency to make sure it's sent there. We will likely send it every single time.
So you're going to go to the state agency because
we
you can't talk to
We will
our clerk.
verify, we will ensure, we'll take control of that.
Okay. Have you tried on any occasion since then to talk to the clerk? Have they
The only
stonewalled
occasion
you or what?
for sending it down to the state was with the cannabis tax, if I remember correctly. That's the last one, and we actually, once it was determined that it was not sent down there, we immediately contacted the state agency, figured out how to do it, sent it down there, confirmed receipt.
All right, so all the modifications that staff has put in and finance has put in, does that cost the county any additional money? Staffing, software?
Staff time, probably. I don't know necessarily software, but staff time. I mean, how much, it's hard to articulate how much. I mean, it's safeguards in place. They're going to be in place from here on out.
All right. All right, thank you.
Okay, Member Desart.
Thank you. I know 100% there are no bad guys here. Nobody did this on purpose. So we're just trying to figure out how to move forward. And thank you, Nick and Jeff, for the internal procedures so this doesn't happen again. My question is that some of the confusion happened because there are two revenue streams based on cannabis, and I've forgotten. It's been a couple of years since cannabis was legalized in Illinois. Could you just remind me of why there are two different streams of tax dollars? Thank you.
You have it's really one combined revenue stream between, and that's somewhat the confusion that happened originally. It was use tax and then the tax revenue for the sales tax on the cannabis. It's a combined payment from the state, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Comes in two payments.
Because we were getting some of.
We received the use tax from the get-go. We always received the use tax, and that was somewhat the confusion because we were getting cannabis money, but it was just the use tax. It was not the combined, obviously, and we had no experience on that.
What's the difference?
Well, maybe what's the difference between use tax and?
Well, the sales tax is our ordinance.
Yeah, that's what we passed. That's the 3%. The use tax is applied, the state, that's just two different components that the state portion that we get. So, go ahead, Member Krajewski.
Yeah, so when there's a tax, when you go to a cannabis store, there'll be a state sales tax, a village sales tax, and potentially a county. So i.e. Westmont, there's state, city, and county. The money that goes to the state, they get like 25%, I think it is. It's 3 for villages and 3 for counties. That 25% that goes to the state, they take a small piece of that and they then allocate it to the entire state based on population. So they'll send each village, each unincorporated total, whatever you have unincorporated, it's all the same dollar. It's kind of like the income tax. It's a per person. So if we have 156,000, they'll give everybody in the state, maybe it's $10 per person. And that's the use tax. And so we got that, everybody got that automatically. All villages, all unincorporated areas, when it was first implemented in Springfield. Then the second component is, I think we did it once where we didn't allow, we didn't allow sales tax in unincorporated, but we did say we'll collect it in the incorporated. And that was the document not filed, and so we weren't collecting on the 10 cannabis
The
places.
second is called the County Cannabis Retailers Occupation Tax. That's where the board voted to to tax 3.75% for sales in unincorporated and 3% from sales in incorporated areas. So that's what we weren't receiving. We received the use tax, but it is one stream. It's not two separate checks. It's one check, and it comes three months in the, I think 3 months in the rear. If I is it two
I
checks
think
or one?
It's two checks. It is two checks.
Is it two separate checks?
The use tax portion comes through LGDF. It's like a wire. The county tax comes through a check. They actually mail us a check. I don't know why, but that's what's happening.
But and we were thinking originally it was one. Yeah.
Okay, we have Member LaPlante and then Member Cahill.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. Thank you, Nick and Jeff, for offering to be sort of the overseers and filling in the gaps and making sure that this doesn't happen again. So those mechanisms and having the two of you in place does make me feel better going forward. Can you also answer who is going to be overlooking, the same way that you're doing this for the clerk's office, who is going to be making sure that the audits are done on time? What kind of mechanism will be in place to make sure that we are up to date with our audits?
Well, yeah, let me answer that. As part of finance's responsibility, we provide updates. The audit you're talking about is a statutory report that's required of the auditor. Rest assured that the finance department provides all the information, financial information, that the board needs to make policy decisions and to operate. We have OpenGov. We come before you, do our own reports. I work with Chair Chaplin very closely on making sure that the right financial information is provided. We do an annual comprehensive annual financial report that's done as part of the county's responsibility to adhere to state statute. We have to do that. That'll be coming before you in August. So I just want to make the board comfortable that information comes from finance. The statutory report is different, and I'd have to let Auditor White again answer that.
Okay, we have Member Cahill and then lastly, Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this board totally agrees that going forward, we need to improve our internal controls, particularly in the clerk's office, and we need some oversight. My recommendation, and I was going to ask Chief of Staff, why don't we consult with Baker Tilly and ask them to come in, and I don't want to cause the taxpayers any more money, but the lack of knowing exactly what internal controls need to be done can cost the taxpayers way more money or can cause lots of problems. We have a $600 million budget. I think we need Baker Tilly, the experts, to come in and say, okay, if the clerk's office is not going to implement these procedures, this is what you can do. And they'll have it all organized, they'll write it all out, they'll get it all set so everybody knows exactly what needs to be done. I think it's a big job to take over the internal controls of the clerk's office and figure out all the resolutions and making sure they're all getting filed, plus your job. That's a lot of responsibility. I think we need the outside person to come in and take a look at it and say, this is what you guys need to do here because this office is not effective. And have us get a plan together on how this can be implemented going forward.
So that's a great idea. I'm sure Baker Tilly would be happy to engage, but we would have to get cooperation from the clerk's office to have Baker Tilly go in there and actually do an audit, which
If we're going to do something like that, we're completely open for outside auditors coming in to do it, but you need to see the entire picture and you need to see it. So will we have full access is the question.
Okay. Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that I am very disappointed in everything that's been transpiring. This is just embarrassing and it's frustrating. We've used so much staff time to compensate for the lack of someone doing their job. And I just hope, thank you to, you guys, to staff for compensating for other people's deficiencies. and all the work you've put into it. I hope it just, in the end, I hope it makes us stronger as a county. We'll have better checks and balances. We'll have better, we'll know, at least I'll know what better questions to ask so that we know if we're missing something or if somebody's not performing their duties. I loved Member Cahill's idea, but it sounds like, hey, we're the single mom trying to compensate for a deadbeat dad, and you can't do that job. You can't force somebody to be the dad. So, you know, okay, deadbeat parents, sorry. But, you know, it's a lot of extra work. It has to be done, but I just hope we can come out stronger at the end of this and everybody comes up with, we're all more educated, we're sadder but wiser people, and this happens, but I don't want it to happen in the future.
Okay, I think it's important that we all take a moment to remember that we, as elected officials in this room, are all very privileged to have the support and the confidence of our voters. And I think it's important to state that this board takes our job very seriously, the responsibility of that. And going forward, we will make sure these things do not happen again. And now we're going to move on to new business. Anybody in new business? Member Krajewski.
Just real quick, I know you're going to be preparing your budget, so hopefully I want to bring forward something that shows a portion of this cannabis tax that we've been spending so much time talking about going to that.
Okay.
Mental health, seriously, but
I agree.
That's a discussion we should have, and just figuring out.
I got 30% of the state for mental health, so we will do our part in DuPage.
Yeah, no,
Thank you, Member Krajewski.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Member Guston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, and as far as transparency and engaging with our constituents, I know we do a quarterly email and we do it to our districts, and then we do an overall DuPage County e-newsletter. Just kind of wanted to get some additional verification on actually how many residents it goes to, and if it does go to people within District 5. I know I have done an email to staff and they've been great on the information, but not for this meeting, maybe the future meeting. I know that 10,000 emails go out. However, we really don't know, like, to who. Like, they just sign up. I'm not sure we check IP addresses. I don't know if they click on things. There are different programs like Constant Contact. If they click on an article, it goes straight to the link where more information can be found on that particular item. So just kind of wanted to have a future conversation about the validity, the value, and maybe how it could be more effective and reviewed by more and more people. I know it's a big ask, but people do like their emails. It's just if they're getting the county one and they're getting the District 5 one, is it the same person or is it excluded? You know, like District 5, definitely you only get the District 5 one. And I know it's selective too, so people can select both if they want, or select, excuse me, select Stormwater or whatever. So there's a lot of selections there and people can select 20 of them if they wanted to. I'm just trying to figure out how we can get more efficiency so we know we're actually sending information to people that are within our area.
Okay.
Joan's gonna tell me.
You are, is the short answer. The long answer is that our Gov delivery system, which we work with the technology department, was selected for exactly this purpose, quite frankly. People opt in to receive a newsletter from their district. They provide us their email addresses. Now, I have no way of connecting their email address with a physical address, and I don't think any software would allow me to do that. However, every month, folks go to our website, select which newsletters they'd like to receive, perhaps Animal Services, perhaps Stormwater, perhaps District 5. That information is then filtered into our delivery list. As you know, Evan sends draft emails for you all to review. You do that. The emails are then sent out to those various lists. I'd be happy to show you the list and let you take a look at the system itself. Any board member, I'd be happy to walk you through it. And I'm happy to say that our lists are growing every single month. Just by way of background, when we moved over to the Gov delivery system, I believe it was in, Evan helped me out, maybe 2017, our list was 3,000. Our list today is close to 90,000 and growing. So I'm very proud of the work that we're doing. I'd be happy to get into the weeds with you on it, but there are certain limitations of any e-news list that are going to be universal. So we can go through that
Yeah,
privately.
that would be great. I'm very interested. The more information we can get out there, the more transparent everything is, and then people feel more comfortable with what we're doing.
Absolutely, and
Great.
that's part of the reason, even in the new website design, that we put that bug straight up. As soon as you come to our website, we allow you to opt in. As you know, it's pinned to all of our social media if you want to receive newsletters. But there are laws that prevent us from doing more than allowing people to opt in. And those are protections for consumers as well. So thanks for the question and thanks for the interest.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, anybody else on new business? Okay, I think this is an important moment as board chair to say that I think we have a lot to be proud of as a board, but none of the work that we achieve could be done without the exceptional staff that we have, and I want them to know just how much myself and this board appreciates everything that you do. Okay, I am informed that we do have matters before us requiring us to enter into executive session. I'll ask those not associated with the executive session to please exit the room, and I'll take a motion to go into executives. Okay? Okay, for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the body. Okay, roll call, please.
Desart. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans. Aye. Galassi Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. Yu. Zay.
Aye.
Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. And Covert.